He's obviously a huge part of this return for us. Jared is an outstanding football player. Former Defensive Rookie of the Year, 2-time original ballot Pro Bowler. He's a perfect DNA match for our attacking front. He's really a terror in both phases, both as a run defender and a pass rusher. And we are really, really excited to add him to our team. He allows us to continue to play defense as a high level, which has been our standard over the past several seasons. And we're really excited to welcome him into the organization.
They caught me by surprise. I loved LA. I love the coaches, the organization, my teammates, everybody a part of it, the staff, the fans. I love the whole vibe of LA, Los Angeles, the Rams. And it was upsetting. I was upset for a good little bit of time. But when you're an athlete, you understand the nature of business. Everybody does what they think is best for their business, and that's the situation I'm in. I'm happy to be a part of the Browns. I'm happy that they believed in me and they were able to make that trade and bring me here. Be with my teammates, be with everybody here, and I truly do believe in everybody in the locker room. But it was upsetting at first, but you got two choices, and you can either work or you can give up, and I ain't never been a quitter.
Dillon Gabriel goes nuts, and honestly, who wouldn't? Jared Verse didn't just wear his jersey number, he treated it like a for sale sign on a vacant house. Zero permission, zero respect, just straight up trolling energy on another level. And now the locker room is buzzing like somebody just lit a fire under the whole rivalry. Is Gabriel already an afterthought in Cleveland? Or does he still have a real shot at proving something? Let us know what you think in the comments, because the full story of what really happened behind those closed doors is coming, and it is bigger than anything you have heard so far. Jared Verse has not taken a single snap in a Browns uniform. He has not been through a regular season game, not survived a fourth quarter drive, not proven one thing on an NFL field yet. And somehow, he is already the most talked about player in Cleveland. Not because of a sack, not because of a highlight, because of 4 words he said at a press conference. A reporter asked him whether he planned to pay Dillon Gabriel for jersey number 8. That was the question. Simple. Light. The room moved on. The internet did not. That answer was not about a number. Numbers are available all the time in the NFL. Players switch them, sell them, trade them for steak dinners. This was different because number 8 is not sitting in a storage room somewhere. It belongs to Dillon Gabriel, a quarterback currently on the Browns roster, a player fighting for his own position on this team. The second Verse said those words, every Browns fan asked the same question at the same time. Why does he sound that certain? Why does he talk about that number like it is already his? Nobody outside that building knows what was said behind closed doors. Maybe Gabriel already agreed to hand it over. Maybe Verse was being reckless with his words. Maybe this whole thing is completely harmless. But the confidence in that answer was impossible to ignore. And Cleveland noticed every single bit of it.
Shedeur Sanders, he's the guy this year. Let's see him. Unless it's terrible, unless it's awful and needs to be benched, there's no reason why we shouldn't get a full season of Shedeur Sanders. I think it could be better. I think it could be good this year. I think he can make plays for us, but also there's a lot more to work with, a lot more where the quarterback doesn't have to do as much. Concepcion's a guy you could just give it to quickly, and he'll do the work after the catch. It should be Sanders. There's no point in watching Watson again for this organization. Now, what could happen for the Browns, though, right, that's my take. What the Browns could do is start Watson first, and then he's on a short leash, almost like what they did with Joe Flacco last year, who was benched in week 5. I could see Watson getting weeks 1 to 4, and if it's losing games, he's done. We're on a short leash with Watson because, well, think about it. The fans are already not going to support it.
Sure, there are innocent explanations. Maybe it was a throwaway line. Maybe Verse did not think twice about it. But Browns fans are not moving on, and that reaction makes complete sense once you understand who Jared Verse actually is inside this organization. He did not walk into Cleveland as some low-profile free agent looking for a roster spot. He came in as the centerpiece of the Myles Garrett trade, one of the most seismic moves this franchise has made in years. That trade reshaped the entire direction of the team. It sent shockwaves through the league. When a player arrives carrying that kind of weight, nothing he says gets treated as casual. Every word lands harder. Every comment gets picked apart. Every joke stops being a joke. That is the position Verse put himself in the second he stepped into that building, and his press conference answer did not help him stay under the radar. What made the whole thing explode was the name attached to that number. If Verse had said the same thing about a veteran with a locked-in role, fans would have scrolled past it and forgotten it by morning. But the number belongs to Dillon Gabriel, and that changed everything. Gabriel has become one of the most invisible players on this entire roster, not because he failed, not because the organization came out and buried him publicly. He just slowly disappeared from the conversation while everything else moved forward around him. New players arrived. New storylines took over. New names started dominating every discussion about the Browns. Gabriel got pushed further and further into the background without a single dramatic moment to mark it. Then Verse made that one comment, and suddenly Gabriel is back in the spotlight. The brutal part is how he got there. Browns fans were not debating jersey traditions when they heard Verse speak. They were asking something much more serious. They were asking whether Gabriel still has a real future in Cleveland, whether the organization still sees him as part of the plan, and whether Verse already knows something about the pecking order that the rest of the world has not been told yet.
I'm not saying all this to make excuses for Shedeur Sanders. What I'm saying is I'm intrigued by what I saw. I'd like to see more here where he's the plan going into the year. And so that's the difference between the rookie quarterbacks of Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders, right? Gabriel was the plan for Kevin Stefanski. He was handpicked. He was given the reps in training camp as the backup. He got reps with the ones. The plan was Gabriel's going to get in at some point this season because Stefanski liked him. Shedeur was thrown in with guys he hadn't had a single snap with, not had thrown once to the receivers. The center never snapped it to him before. That matters, folks. And so for that guy, the guy that wasn't supposed to go in, Shedeur, to still look better than Dillon Gabriel, that's talent. That's something he just has in him. Okay, because Gabriel was given the game plan. Shedeur's just get out there and do something.
Verse created the loudest moment of the entire week without playing a single down of football. No touchdowns, no sacks, no game-winning plays. One press conference answer, and the whole city was talking. That is either impressive or alarming, depending on how you look at it. But the more important thing is what that moment revealed. It did not just generate noise about Verse. It forced an entire fan base to stop and think hard about a player who had quietly slipped off their radar. Dillon Gabriel, a name that used to carry real weight in Cleveland discussions, a name that had real energy around what he could become. Analysts were breaking down his game. People were debating his ceiling, his weaknesses, his long-term fit inside the organization. Nobody was calling him a franchise savior, but nobody was dismissing him either. He was a player worth tracking, worth arguing about, worth investing time into. There was genuine curiosity about his development and whether he could build something real in this city. That version of the Gabriel conversation felt alive. It felt like something with a future attached to it. Then something shifted, and the disturbing part is that nothing dramatic caused it. Gabriel did not collapse. He did not get benched in embarrassing fashion. The organization never came out and publicly written him off. He simply faded. New players came in and grabbed attention. New storylines swallowed up the oxygen in every Browns discussion. The spotlight that used to find Gabriel just stopped looking for him, and he drifted into the background so quietly that a huge portion of the fan base almost forgot he was still on the roster. That is the most savage part of this whole situation. Not that he was cut, not that he was called out. He was ignored into irrelevance. Then Verse opened his mouth at a press conference, and in one sentence, Gabriel was the most talked about backup quarterback in the entire league again. The questions fans started asking had nothing to do with Gabriel's arm or his footwork or his ability to read a defense. They went somewhere far more uncomfortable than that. People started asking whether Gabriel had already become an afterthought inside that organization, whether the Browns had quietly moved past him without ever making a public announcement about it. That is a brutal question to have floating around your name. And to be straight about it, there is zero hard evidence that Cleveland has given up on Gabriel. No official statements, no insider reports pointing toward the exit. Nobody inside that building has gone on record saying his future is in danger. Those facts are real, and they matter. But the NFL does not always wait for hard evidence before perception takes over.
It's not often a team cuts a third-round pick after one season, but I think the writing's on the wall for Dillon Gabriel. I mean, dude, Jared Verse landed in Cleveland yesterday. He's already out on the practice field rocking jersey number 8, which, if you're not familiar, is also the jersey number that Dillon Gabriel wears. That guy is so cut. And we've been talking about it. Typically, the Browns will keep 3 quarterbacks on the active 53-man roster. Now, this year, remember, whether or not he starts, Deshaun Watson has to be on the active roster. You cannot cut him because financially the dead cap would cripple the roster. You know Shedeur Sanders will be here, and they just drafted Taylor Green in the 6th round. I don't think they're going to risk cutting him and trying to sneak him onto the practice squad at roster cutdowns. And unless somebody comes knocking on the door and wants to trade for Dillon Gabriel, which I do not understand why anybody would want to do that, I just don't feel like he is a part of the Browns' future in any way, shape, or form. What do you guys think? I mean, it is definitely interesting to see Jared Verse come in here day one, and that is his number. He has it. I mean, there was no buying the number like you see with other guys on other teams. He just took it. So let me know, what do you guys think about Dillon Gabriel? Should he stick around for another year, see what he's got maybe, or just cut bait because we kind of already saw last year what he is and what he's not?
And right now, the perception surrounding Gabriel is not flattering. That gap between what is officially confirmed and what fans genuinely feel is exactly where reputations start eroding without anyone pulling the trigger on a single dramatic move. Perception in this league moves at a terrifying speed. It does not always shift because of a trade or a benching or a front office announcement. Sometimes it shifts because fans start quietly noticing patterns. They notice which players dominate every conversation and which ones disappear from it entirely. They notice who generates excitement when their name comes up and who gets met with silence. Gabriel has been on the wrong side of that pattern for a while now. So when Verse's comments started spreading, the reaction was disorganization right now. That reaction did not come from nowhere. Verse did not plant that doubt in people's minds. The doubt was already sitting there. His comment simply gave it a reason to surface publicly, and once it surfaced, it spread fast. That is what makes this whole situation so revealing. If Gabriel were viewed as an untouchable piece of Cleveland's future, that press conference moment would have been forgotten within hours. Fans would have laughed, shared the clip, and moved on completely. Nobody would have turned it into a referendum on his roster standing. But that is not what happened. It became a debate because people are genuinely uncertain about where he stands. And that uncertainty does not just appear overnight. It builds slowly over an entire offseason of being overlooked while everything around you moves forward. The NFL is a relentless machine, and it does not slow down for players caught in the middle of a roster reshuffling. Verse arrived in Cleveland as the most electrifying new addition the fan base had seen in years. Gabriel entered this same offseason from the complete opposite direction. As a player, the conversation had already started leaving behind. The contrast between these two players right now is almost painful to look at. Verse walked into Cleveland and immediately owned every conversation surrounding the team. Gabriel is being talked about because somebody else wants his jersey number. That is the whole story in 2 sentences. One player is the headline. The other player is a footnote inside somebody else's headline. That shift did not happen because of anything dramatic. No blow-up, no public fallout. The spotlight just moved, and Gabriel got left standing in the dark. This situation is not really about a number at all. It never was. It is about how fast relevance disappears inside an NFL organization. One offseason, you are part of the plan everyone is excited about. The next offseason, another player is generating more noise before his first snap than you have generated in months. That is a ruthless reality, and Cleveland is living it right now in real time. None of this chaos would exist if Verse had arrived as a normal roster addition. But he did not. He came here because the Browns traded Myles Garrett. Let that land for a second. Garrett was not just a good player on this team. He was the face of the entire defense. The player opposing offenses built their game plans around. The player Browns fans pointed to every single week as proof this franchise had something real. Sending him away was a disaster-level decision in the eyes of half the fan base, and the pressure on every single player coming back in that trade is enormous because of it. Verse carries the heaviest portion of that weight. Cleveland did not bring him in to fill a roster spot. They brought him in because they genuinely believe he can help replace what Garrett meant to this organization. That is an insane amount of expectation to place on a player who has not played a game here yet. And it is Verse is not any other player in Cleveland right now. Fans already see him as one of the most important pieces of the franchise's next chapter. And when a player carries that kind of weight, his words stop sounding like jokes. They start sounding like signals. When he said he expected to have that number soon enough, people did not hear a lighthearted comment from a new face. They heard a player who already knows exactly where he stands inside that building. Whether that reading is accurate is almost irrelevant at this point. The perception is already set. Verse is viewed as a foundational piece of Cleveland's future, and that perception turned one casual press conference answer into a full-blown debate about Gabriel's standing, his future, and whether the organization has already quietly made up its mind about who matters and who does not. Anyways, Jared Verse has not played a single snap, and he already has Dillon Gabriel fighting to stay relevant in his own building. That is not a jersey battle. That is a power shift. If you think Gabriel's days in Cleveland are already numbered, smash that like button and subscribe, because this story is nowhere near finished.